So the first factor I want to talk about is Chinese children's lifestyle, how they're different from, say, children here in Australia or in New Zealand. I mentioned just now that Chinese families live in really high-pressured environment, especially the children have to go through a series of tests since they were kids, and then eventually a university entrance exam, which is a huge deal for them. And Chinese students do study really hard, which is not a myth. So according to the latest survey on their lifestyle and what are the risk factors or factors affecting their lifestyles, some of these factors are listed here. So first is short-sightedness. As you can see, I wear glasses, and I've been wearing glasses since I was a kid. And when I was in school, most of the kids in my family would wear glasses, which is the standard, right? So according to this survey, Chinese students, from primary school students to high school students, suffer the highest percentage of myopia or short-sightedness globally. This number goes higher and higher the higher the grades. And then the second factor is a lack of sleep. Less than 20% of students sleep longer than 8 hours a day, which is really required for especially young kids. And also this gets worse when they get older, when they have to study harder for the entrance exam. The other category is digestive health. I think because China has this culture of deriving nutrition from food, so nurture food as a therapy or nurturing from food is really important in Chinese culture. So a lot of Chinese parents would be worried about their children's digestive health. And also some surveys say that over 90% of Chinese population suffer from lactose intolerance. When I say this is a new concept, I mean when I was growing up, for example, we were just not aware of lactose intolerance as an illness, but now more and more people are concerned about this, which is also partly explains the growth of probiotics. And lastly, I mentioned academic pressure. So high school students in China, they work harder than people work in office. They on average study over 11 hours a day, which is quite the standard, I would say. Go to school at 7 or 8 and don't finish sometimes until 9 p.m. in school. So all of these lifestyle factors are quite unique to, I would say, to China, but in comparison to, say, Australia, it's quite different. And this is reflected in the products they're buying or their parents are choosing for them. So we can see that in this category, the top selling nutritional products more or less match the needs or the lifestyle situations I described: immunity, brain functions, vision, and digestive health. And bones and joints is also a big category. I think that's explained by, first of all, in traditional Chinese medicine, there isn't a lot of remedy for that. I think you have to go to calcium or vitamin D to fulfill that need because we're talking about Western nutritional products. And secondly, I think Chinese parents are really concerned about their children's height because historically, Chinese children are not the tallest, even now in comparison to many other countries. We are not as tall as, say, the average height of kids, say, in Australia or in Scandinavia or some other countries. So height is certainly also a factor in that consideration. But that's forming part of the overall well-being of their children. And they do more or less match those key issues we mentioned in the previous slide. So given that the choice of their products so closely match their children's lifestyle, the question is, what does the future look like, or where is this trend going to lead us to? I think the key considerations would be some of these would have a good indication of where that's going. First of all, new lifestyle. So China has become richer in the last few short decades, and the parents we're talking to now are the post-80s, post-90s, or the millennial and the noughties are becoming parents, right? So when they're becoming parents, because they grew up with more wealth in comparison to their parents, they are, even as children themselves, they probably would have done more sports, more kind of activities compared to the previous generations. So they want their children to do more of these as well. For example, skiing, for example, parachuting, for example, horse riding. These things their parents wouldn't have had the opportunity to do. So with the rise of that new lifestyle, I think it's safe to predict that nutrition and products related to those categories are probably going to increase in the future. For example, there are people who are formulating nutritions like protein powders for children, for younger people, because they're going to the gym more, they're exercising more, so on and so forth. And secondly, because these kids are so busy, and the survey actually indicates that a lot of them don't have breakfast, and that's on the rise. Snacking is definitely a trend, I think, globally, not only in China, because people are getting busier and they want their food to be portable and convenient. But this category in China among the younger children and school kids are, I would say, more prominent than they are here, because they do have such busy schedules and their parents are busy as well. So having something nutritious on the go, on the way to school, to sports, will probably become something they want to look at. And childhood obesity used to not be a problem, and this still isn't a problem in some areas in China, namely some of the more poorer regions in China, but it is definitely on the rise. Data suggests that childhood obesity is becoming, or will become, a problem for some kids in China. So what are you going to do about that? Are there nutritionists supporting that aspect of the challenges they face? And lastly, emotion management. If you read Chinese media, you've heard of some kids suffering from depression, anxiety, and suicide rate is also on the rise. So how to manage their emotions from a nutrition perspective, not to say that they're going to take very serious drugs to fix those problems, but what are the well-being factors in nutrition that's going to support development of better emotional management for kids is also important.